The sun hung low over the dusty training ground, casting long shadows across the dry-cracked earth. Soldiers milled about in small groups, some laughing, others focused on their own drills. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, dust, and gunpowder. Mara stood at the edge of the field, her heart pounding in her chest, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She was used to being overlooked, the quiet woman. No one expected much from the one who rarely spoke and always stayed in the background. But today was different. Today she was about to hold in her hands a rifle that was meant for snipers, a weapon designed for precision, and the lieutenant had tossed the rifle to her like it was a joke, a challenge meant to mock, not to empower. His smirk wide as he said, "Try your luck, but everyone knows you won't hit the target, not from that far away." Mara forced a smile, hiding the storm of determination rising inside her. She looked down at the sleek black rifle, feeling the cold weight in her hands, the unfamiliar heft and the smooth metal cool against her skin. She had trained with pistols and assault rifles, but never this, the kind of rifle that demanded patience and focus, that required the shooter to become one with the weapon. And the environment moved to the firing line, her eyes scanning the distant range, the target barely visible, a tiny black dot against the backdrop of rocky hills and dry scrub. The distance measured at nearly 3 kilometers, nearly 3,000 meters away, a challenge that seemed impossible even for the most skilled marksman. But Mara had never been one to back down from the impossible around her. The other soldiers whispered baits and jokes, their voices low but filled with doubt and disbelief that the quiet woman could succeed where so many others might fail. The lieutenant's smirk still fresh in her mind, fueling the fire that burned in her chest. Mara adjusted her stance, feet planted firmly shoulder width apart, her breathing slow and steady, her fingers tightening around the rifle stock, the scope raised to her eye. She blocked out the world, the chatter, the doubts, the heat, the dry wind, swirling dust around her face. She focused on the tiny black dot far away and the steady rhythm of her heart, the slight sway of the earth beneath her feet. Calculated the wind direction, the humidity, the slight incline of the terrain, the bullet drop over distance, all the variables that could turn a perfect shot into a failure. A missed opportunity, a humiliation. The world seemed to slow, the seconds stretching endless as she held her breath and squeezed the trigger, the sharp crack of the rifle firing echoing through the air like thunder, the recoil jarring but controlled. Mara's eyes never leaving the scope as the bullet flew on its arc, defying the odds and cutting through the air, a small dark line against the bright sky. The crowd held its breath, the lieutenant's smirk faltering as all eyes turned to the distant target, the puff of dust rising from the ground a split second after the shot, confirming what no one believed possible. Mara had done the impossible. She had hit the target at 2,950 meters, a shot that would become legend. Whispered in barracks and celebrated in mess halls. A rush of exhilaration flooded Mara, her heart pounding with triumph, her hands trembling not from fear but from the fierce joy of proving herself. The quiet woman no longer ignored, no longer underestimated. The one who had been handed a rifle as a joke and had turned it into a weapon of undeniable skill. Soldiers around her erupted into cheers and applause, the lieutenant swallowing his pride and nodding with reluctant respect. Mara's eyes shone with a fierce light, a promise to herself and to the world that this was only the beginning, that she would not be confined by expectations or doubts, but beneath the triumph lay the awareness of the path ahead, the challenges unseen, the battles too come that would test not just her aim, but her resolve, her spirit, and her courage. Mara knew this moment was a turning point, a door opening to a future filled with uncertainty, but also with possibility. Lowered the rifle, feeling its weight anew. The symbol of power and responsibility now in her hands, the quiet woman transformed into a force to be reckoned with, a sniper whose shot had shattered more than just distance but the limits placed on her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mara stood tall, her silhouette sharp against the fading light, the desert sky painted with colors of fire and hope, her mind already racing forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead with steady hands and an unbreakable will. Morning after the shot dawned clear and sharp, the cold desert air biting at Mara's skin as she moved through the camp, the echo of last night's triumph still buzzing in her veins, but the reality of what came next settling heavy on her shoulders. Whispers followed, Through the tents and corridors, the soldiers no longer saw her as invisible, but still many were hesitant, unsure if the shot was a fluke or the start of something more. Amara kept her head down, focusing on her training, pushing harder than ever. Before every morning, she was up with the sun, running drills, calculating distances, and mastering her weapon, the rifle that had once been a joke, now an extension of herself, the weight and balance becoming familiar, the scope like a second pair of eyesight. Even as she improved, the challenges multiplied, the commanders skeptical, hesitant to trust a woman with such a powerful weapon, the other soldiers watching her with a mix of admiration and doubt, some eager to learn, others resentful of her sudden rise. But Mara refused to be deterred. She knew that her skill alone would have to prove itself time and again. The battlefield was unforgiving and only results mattered. Her instructors pushed her harder than anyone else, forcing her into situations that tested her endurance, her patience, and her focus. The rifle was a tool, but the mind and body had to be equally sharp. The calculations for wind, elevation, and humidity, complex puzzles that required precision and calm under pressure. One afternoon, Mara was sent on a long-range mission to scout an area known for enemy activity, the landscape rugged and unforgiving with sharp cliffs and deep ravines, the sun beating down relentlessly as she moved with careful stealth, her eyes scanning the horizon, her ears alert for the faintest sound. The mission was not just a test of marksmanship, but of survival, the ability to remain unseen and unheard while gathering intelligence crucial to the safety of her unit. Towers past the sun, arcing high in the sky before Mara spotted movement far in the distance, a small group of enemy soldiers moving cautiously through the rocky terrain, her heart racing. She raised her rifle, adjusting the scope, focusing on the target, calculating distance, wind, and trajectory, the moment tense and fragile. She took a deep breath, steadying her aim. The shot fired, a silent promise cutting through the air, the enemy soldiers unaware, the bullet finding its mark, disabling their radio equipment, cutting their communication, and disrupting their plans. Success of the mission earned Mara cautious praise from her commanders and a grudging respect from her peers, but it also brought new dangers. The enemy, now aware that someone among them was a deadly force, someone who could strike from afar and vanish without a trace. Mara's life became a delicate balance between the thrill of the hunt and the weight of responsibility, the sniper's paradox, the solitary nature of the role demanding isolation, yet the knowledge that her actions impacted countless lives. In the quiet moments, Mara wrestled with doubts and fears, the toll of the job weighing on her spirit, the loneliness and the constant pressure to be perfect, to never miss a shot, the burden heavier than the rifle itself. But she found strength in small victories, the gratitude of those she protected, the letters from home, the quiet moments beneath the stars when the world seemed to hold its breath, and she could simply be Mara, not the sniper, not the weapon, but a woman with dreams, hopes, and a fierce heart. As the days turned into weeks, Mara's reputation grew, a shadow in the distance, a guardian unseen and unstoppable, the woman who had been handed a rifle as a joke, now a legend in the making. A symbol of courage, skill, and relentless determination. Yet even as she rose, others conspired to bring her down. Whispers of jealousy and suspicion followed her steps, challenges not just from the enemy but from within her own ranks, a reminder that the path she walked was narrow and fraught with peril. Throughout it all, Mara held fast, her eyes on the horizon, the rifle always by her side, a constant reminder of the moment she defied expectations and the promise she made to herself to never be underestimated again. The days grew hotter, the desert sun relentless. Mara's determination only hardened as she pushed herself beyond limits she once thought impossible. Each morning before dawn, she was already up, running through drills, practicing her breathing, her posture, her focus. The rifle became an extension of her body, a silent partner in the dance of survival and precision. Her successes were many, but not without cost. The physical toll, the constant strain on muscles and nerves, the mental weight of every shot fired, the responsibility for lives saved or lost, a burden heavier than any rifle could carry. One mission in particular stood out, a test that would challenge not just her skill but her very spirit. The intelligence had come in late, the enemy Planning a move that could change the course of the conflict, Mara was tasked with intercepting the key figure coordinating the attack, a target hidden deep in hostile territory, miles away from support and safe. Dive preparation was meticulous. Every detail studied, every variable accounted for. The rifle cleaned and tuned the scope, calibrated the wind speed and direction, measured the angle of the sun, noted the humidity levels. Everything had to be perfect. Mara set out alone, moving through the rough terrain with practiced stealth, her footsteps silent against the rocky ground, her senses heightened, alert for any sign of danger. The desert, a harsh and unforgiving alley, hers passed under the blazing sun, the target finally spotted. Alone figure moving cautiously near a small outpost, Mara settled into position, a natural sniper's nest overlooking the area. She took a deep breath, calming her racing heart, steadying her hand and eye. The moment suspended and time. She lined up the shot, adjusting for distance and wind, the bullet's trajectory calculated with precision, the trigger pulled smoothly, the sound muffled in her ears, the recoil absorbed by muscle and focused. Bullet flew a whisper against the roar of the wind, striking true, disabling the target and disrupting the enemy's plans. The mission a success that echoed in the silent gratitude of her comrades and the whispered fears of her enemies, but the victory was bittersweet. Mara's solitude deepened, the weight of her role pressing down like the desert sun, crushing yet necessary. The price of being the unseen guardian, a shadow in the distance, a protector who must remain invisible to survive. Back at camp, Mara found herself under scrutiny, not just from her commanders but from those who doubted her place, the whispers of resentment and suspicion growing louder, the tension thick in the air, a reminder that her path was never going to be easy. Despite the challenges, Mara's resolve remained unshaken. Her focus sharpened by adversity, her eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of a future where skill and courage would speak louder than prejudice and doubt. In moments of quiet, she reached out to the few she trusted, sharing stories and fears. The human side behind the sniper, the woman beneath the legend, the dreams and hopes often hidden behind steely eyes and steady hands. Bond with the man who had once handed her the rifle as a joke slowly evolved into something complex, respect turning into camaraderie and something deeper, a connection forged in fire and trust. Together they faced missions that tested their limits, pushing each other to be better, stronger, more resilient. The battlefield, a harsh teacher but also a place where loyalty and friendship blossomed against all odds. As the campaign wore on, Mara became more than just a shooter. She became a symbol, the embodiment of defiance against expectations, a living testament that courage and skill could break through any barrier. The rifle was no longer a joke, no longer just a tool. It was a part of her story, a mark of triumph and survival, a reminder of what could be achieved when determination met opportunity. Dawn broke with a pale light filtering through the tents as Mara prepared for another day, the quiet before the storm, the moments of calm she cherished and feared for in equal measure, her mind racing through the plans, the possible threats, the unknown variables that could tip the balance between life and death. Her body ached from long hours of training and missions, yet she pushed on, driven by a fire that burned brighter with each challenge faced. The rifle resting against the sandbags like an old friend, a silent witness to the battles waged both external and within. Word of her feats had begun to spread beyond the camp, whispers reaching ears of commanders high above those who had once doubted, now watching closely, waiting to see if the legend was true or just a lucky shot inflated by rumor and hope. Mara was summoned to a meeting, a room filled with stern faces and heavy expectations, the weight of their gaze pressing down like the desert heat. She stood tall, refusing to shrink into the shadows she had inhabited for so long. Orders were clear, a critical operation plan deep behind enemy lines, a chance to change the course of the conflict if successful, a mission that required precision, skill, and nerves of steel. Mara was chosen to provide sniper cover, the eyes from afar, the unseen guardian protecting those on the ground. Preparation was intense, every detail scrutinized, every angle considered, the stakes higher than ever before. Yet Mara embraced the pressure, the challenge fueling her determination to prove She was more than a shot in the dark night before the mission. Mara lay under a canopy of stars, the vast sky a reminder of how small and vast life could be. All at once she thought of the people depending on her, the comrades risking everything beside her, and the family waiting far away, hoping for her safe return. Sleep came in fragments, dreams filled with flashes of past battles, the roar of gunfire, the flash of a bullet, the silent heartbeat before the shot. She awoke before dawn, moving with practiced grace through the camp, her gear packed and checked, her mind sharp and red-eyed. Journey to the drop point was long and perilous, the vehicle weaving through rugged terrain, shadows stretching and shrinking as the moon faded, the cold night air biting through layers of clothing. Mara's focus unbroken, her senses alert to every sound, every movement. They reached the insertion point and moved on foot, the weight of their packs and weapons heavy but necessary, the silence broken only by whispered commands and the soft crunch of boots on gravel, the tension palpable as they approached the enemy stronghold. Mara found her vantage point, a narrow ledge overlooking the area, her eyes scanning the landscape, the targeted group of enemy fighters preparing for an attack, her fingers steady as she raised the rifle, the scope bringing the scene into sharp focus, the distance daunting but manageable. She waited patiently, the sniper's eternal lesson, patience, the ability to blend into the environment, to become invisible not just in body but in mind, to quiet every distraction and be ready for the perfect moment. There's past, the sun rising, burning away the morning mist, the heat climbing the air, shimmering with waves of tension. Mara felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever, every breath measured, every heartbeat a countdown to action. Finally the moment came, the order to engage, the target moving swiftly. Mara took the shot, her bullet flying true, disabling a key enemy commander, sending confusion into their ranks, the success turning the tide and buying precious time for her comrades. The aftermath was a whirlwind of movement and noise. Mara held her position, covering the retreat, coordinating with the team, communicating silently through hand signals and radio whispers, the sniper no longer just a distant presence but a vital part of the operation. As they withdrew, Mara felt a surge of pride mixed with exhaustion, the knowledge that her role was crucial, the realization that every shot carried consequences and that she was no longer alone in her fight back at camp. The praise was cautious yet genuine, the commanders nodding in respect, the soldiers offering nods and quiet words. Mara's place in the unit solidifying not through words but through deeds, through the silent language of survival and trust. That night Mara allowed herself a rare moment of reflection, the rifle resting by her side, the stars above, a silent witness to her journey. The woman who had been handed a rifle as a joke, now a guardian whose aim and courage had saved lives and shaped battles. Her path was still long, the road ahead filled with uncertainty, but Mara's resolve was unbreakable, her spirit forged in fire. Her vision clear, she was more than a shot, more than a soldier. She was a force reshaping the future with every breath, every heartbeat, and every shot fired true. The days that followed were a relentless blur of activity and preparation. Mara found herself caught between the exhaustion of constant vigilance and the exhilaration of purpose, her body aching yet her spirit unyielding, every moment steeped in the tension of waiting and the urgency of action. News of her success had spread through the ranks, transforming whispers of doubt into murmurs of respect. The rifle, once a symbol of ridicule, now a badge of honor carried with quiet pride. But Mara knew that respect was fragile, built on the fragile foundation of results and reputation. Orders came swift and unyielding, the next mission more dangerous, more complex, the enemy adapting, learning from each encounter, their tactics shifting, shadows moving through the landscape unseen and unpredictable. Mara's role evolving from marksman to strategist, the sniper who not only fired the shot but read the battlefield like an open book, trained harder, refining every skill, every calculation, adjusting to the ever-changing conditions. The rifle her constant companion, the scope a window into a world where every detail mattered, the slightest movement, the faintest sound, the whisper of wind, a language she was learning to speak fluent. Lyon. Evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mara sat alone, tracing the worn grip of her rifle, her mind drifting to the life she had left behind, the family and friends unaware of the battles waged in silence far from their reach, the loneliness creeping in like a shadow despite the noise of the camphor thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a messenger, a young soldier, breathless and wide-eyed, delivering orders for a high-priority operation. Intelligence had located a key enemy supply line vulnerable to disruption, a chance to strike a blow that could cripple the enemy's capacity and hasten the end of the conflict. Mara was tasked with leading the sniper team, a responsibility both daunting and exhilarating, the opportunity to prove not just her aim but her leadership, to shape the outcome through careful planning and decisive action. The preparation was intense, with maps and satellite images spread before her. She coordinated with her team, assigning roles and contingencies, calculating every risk and opportunity, the weight of command settling on her shoulders, a mantle she accepted with fierce determination. The night of the operation was a dance of shadows and silence, the team moving like ghosts through rugged terrain. Mara's eyes sharp and alert, scanning the darkness, the rifle ready, the team's lives resting in the balance of her decisions and her shots. The enemy was alert and dangerous, the terrain unforgiving, the tension a constant pulse as Mara guided her team through the mission. Each shot fired precise, each movement calculated. The supply line disrupted, the enemy thrown into disarray. Success was hard-won and costly, the team battered but victorious, Mara's leadership earning respect beyond the rifle. The woman who had once been handed a weapon as a joke, now a commander whose courage and skill shaped battles and saved lives. Back at camp, Mara allowed herself a rare smile, the satisfaction of accomplishment mingling with the bittersweet weight of loss, the knowledge that every victory carried a price, the faces of fallen comrades haunting the quiet moments, reminding her of the stakes and the cost of war. Yet Mara's resolve did not waver, her spirit hardened by fire, her purpose clear. She was more than a marksman, more than a soldier. She was a leader, a force whose story would inspire those who followed her path, a beacon of strength and courage forged in the crucible of battle. The rifle remained at her side, a symbol of her journey, a testament to the moment she defied expectations and the countless battles she would fight to protect those who could not protect themselves. The quiet woman transformed into a legend whose aim was true and whose heart was fierce. Early morning mist clung to the ground like a whisper as Mara prepared for another day, the cold biting but a welcome contrast to the heat that would come. The rifle cleaned and ready, her mind sharp and focused, the weight of responsibility settling comfortably on her shoulders. She was no longer the woman who had been handed a rifle as a joke. Now she was a seasoned sniper, a leader whose presence commanded respect even in silence. Camp was alive with movement, soldiers packing gear, coordinating logistics, voices low but urgent. Mara's eyes scanning the horizon, always alert for threats or opportunities. The battlefield was a living thing, constantly shifting, evolving, and she had to stay one step ahead. This mission was different, the intelligence briefings clear and grim, the enemy planning a major offensive that could change everything. Mara's team tasked with providing overwatch cover, spotting threats, and, if necessary, taking out key targets to protect their own forces, the stakes higher than ever. The pressure immense, moved with practiced stealth, finding the perfect vantage point high above the valley, the rifle a natural extension of her body, the scope revealing details invisible to the naked eye, the enemy forces moving like ants below, their movements coordinated but vulnerable under her watchful gaze. Hours passed, the sun climbing the sky, the tension building, Mara's breathing steady, her finger resting lightly on the trigger, the sniper's eternal lesson, patience. The ability to wait for the perfect moment to strike without hesitation or doubt. Then the moment came, a group of enemy officers gathered in a clearing, their conversation and movements revealing plans. Mara adjusted her aim, calculating distance, wind and trajectory. The shot fired, a silent messenger of death, the bullet flying true, eliminating the threat and sending ripples of confusion through enemy ranks. The operation continued with precision and coordination, Mara's team covering the advancing troops, coordinating with artillery and ground forces. The battlefield a complex dance of strategy and survival, each decision carrying weight, the lives of many hanging in the balance. But war was unpredictable and the unexpected struck Mara's team caught in an ambush, the air filled with gunfire and shouts, chaos erupting around them. Her leadership and training put to the ultimate test, she directed her team, coordinating cover fire, retreat, and counterattack, the rifle firing shot after shot, her calm amidst the storm, a beacon of Hapith. Firefight was brutal, but Mara's resolve never wavered, her focus unbreakable, her spirit forged in the fires of countless battles. She fought not just with bullets, but with courage and determination, the team surviving against the odds, their bond stronger than ever. When the dust settled, Mara's thoughts turned to those lost, the faces of comrades etched into her memory, a reminder of the cost of every battle, the price paid in blood and sacrifice, a burden she carried with quiet dignity. Back at camp, the mood was somber yet proud, the commanders acknowledging her leadership, the soldiers offering nods of respect. Mara felt the weight of their trust, a mantle she would bear without falter or regret. In the solitude of night, Mara reflected on her journey, the rifle resting beside her, a symbol of all she had overcome. The moment she defied expectations and proved her worth not just to others but to herself, the quiet woman transformed into a legend whose aim was true and whose heart was fiercer. Her path was far from over, the road ahead filled with danger, uncertainty, and sacrifice, but Mara's resolve was unbreakable, her spirit unyielding. She was more than a sniper, more than a soldier, she was a force of nature, a guardian whose story would inspire generations to come, a testament to the power of courage, skill, and determination. The battlefield was her home, the rifle her voice, and every shot a story told. In silence, a promise made and kept, a life lived with purpose and honor. The horizon burned with the first light of dawn as Mara lay prone on the rocky outcrop, her breath slow and measured, the rifle steady beneath her, the cold metal familiar against her cheek, the world around her awakening. But for Mara, the battlefield was already alive and dangerous, each movement and sound a potential threat or opportunity to be seized. Evidence of missions had hardened her resolve and sharpened her instincts. She moved with a quiet confidence born of countless hours spent in the unforgiving wild, the sniper's life, a constant balance of patience and precision, of silence and sudden deadly action. Her team depended on her guidance, her eyes and ears in the distance, the voice that kept them one step ahead, the bond forged in fire, unbreakable despite the distance and danger that separated them, the rifle a lifeline connecting them in a deadly dance. Seth's mission was critical. Intelligence had revealed a high-value target, planning a devastating strike, a man whose elimination could save countless lives. Mara's team tasked with tracking and neutralizing the threat, a challenge that tested every skill and ounce of courage they possessed. The terrain was harsh, the enemy alert and ruthless. Mara moved through shadows and rocks, her senses tuned to the slightest whisper, the rifle's scope a window into a world where time slowed and every detail mattered, the stakes higher than ever before. Days of tracking brought them closer to the target, a hidden compound deep in enemy territory, the final approach silent and cautious, the weight of the moment pressing down like the desert sun, the team setting up positions, communicating through hand signals and low whispers, their movements a choreography of survival and stratagem. Mara settled into position, a narrow ledge overlooking the compound, the rifle steady, her mind clear, the years of training and experience guiding her every thought and action, the sniper's paradox, embracing solitude to save others. The calm eye in the storm, the target appeared briefly in the scope, a man unaware of the fate aimed at him, the moment suspended in time, Mara's finger tightening on the trigger, the shot fired, a whisper of death, the bullet finding its mark with deadly precision. Chase erupted in the compound, confusion and alarm rippling through enemy ranks. Mara's team moved swiftly, exploiting the moment, the attack thwarted, lives saved, the victory a testament to skill and courage in the shadows. But the cost was high. Mara's team suffered losses, the faces of fallen comrades haunting the quiet moments, the burden heavier than any weapon, the pain of survival mingling with the resolve to honor those who gave everything. Back at base, Mara was hailed as a hero, yet the accolades felt hollow, the real victory measured in lives spared and missions accomplished, the sniper's life a lonely one filled with sacrifice and silent triumphs. Despite the pain, Mara's spirit remained unbroken, her determination Unyielding, she had become more than the joke. She once was more than a shooter. She was a protector, a leader whose legend would grow with each mission, each shot fired. Truth rifle remained at her side, a symbol of resilience and hope, a reminder of the moment she proved that courage and skill could break barriers and change the course of history. Her journey was far from over, the battles ahead daunting, but Mara faced them with unwavering resolve, the quiet woman who became a force whose story would inspire and endure, a testament to the power of faith, skill, and hearth. Sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape. Mara sat alone beneath a solitary tree, the rifle resting beside her, the silence around her broken only by the whispering wind, the weight of the past months settling into her bones, the memories vivid and unyielding. She thought of the moment it all began, the joke, the doubt, the ridicule, the unexpected challenge that had transformed her life forever. The rifle no longer a symbol of mockery, but a tool of precision and survival, a testament to her resilience and skill. Her journey had been one of relentless determination, of pushing beyond limits and breaking barriers, each mission a chapter written in sweat and courage. The woman who had once been ignored, now the one who changed the course of battles, her name whispered with respect in a weathy battlefield, had been unforgiving, testing not just her aim but her spirit. Each shot fired a battle won against prejudice and expectation, each target hit a step toward proving her worth beyond the confines of doubt and derision. Her comrades had become her family, the bond forged in fire and trust, a connection deeper than words, the rifle a shared language speaking of sacrifice and hope, the quiet moments between missions filled with stories, laughter, and the unspoken understanding of those who faced danger side by side. Mara's leadership had grown from necessity to strength, guiding her team through the chaos of war, her decisions sharp, her courage unwavering, the sniper no longer just a lone figure but a beacon for those who followed, a symbol of what could be achieved with grit and hearth. Missions continued, the challenges mounting, the enemy adapting, but Mara adapted faster, her skills honed to a razor edge, her instincts honed by experience, the rifle her voice and shield, the embodiment of precision and resolve. Beneath the hardened exterior lay a woman who carried the scars of war, the losses and sacrifices, the weight of responsibility that never fully lifted, the quiet moments when the world seemed too much, when the silence was deafening and the pain robbed. Mara endured, the strength of her spirit a testament to the power of will, the refusal to be defined by limitations or doubts, the courage to stand tall even when the odds were against her, the resolve to protect and fight for those who could not fight for themselves. As the sun finally set, Mara stood rising slowly, the rifle slung across her back, the horizon a canvas of fading light and endless possibilities. Her story far from over, a journey marked by courage and triumphal legacy carved in the shadows, and the light was no longer the woman who had been handed a rifle as a joke. She was a legend, a guardian whose aim had changed history, whose heart had inspired many, a symbol of strength and hope, a reminder that sometimes the greatest power lies in those who dare to defy expectations and rewrite their own destiny. And with that thought, Mara stepped forward into the coming night, ready for whatever battles awaited, confident in her skill and unbreakable in her spirit, the sniper whose shot was true and whose story would live on.